Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're working in information security, your absolute master goal is safeguarding information assets from unauthorized access and destruction, right? But in doing so, you've probably slammed headfirst into a massive wall of legal acronyms: ISO, HIPAA, SOX, GDPR. It's incredibly easy to look at that alphabet soup and just see red tape, bureaucracy, and endless compliance checklists. But today, we're going to reframe that completely. We're going to look at these frameworks not as administrative burdens, but as critical, interconnected shields that actually protect our modern digital world from total chaos. You see, threat actors are always calculating. For them, a successful breach is basically a formula: attack equals motive plus method plus vulnerability. Whether their motive is financial gain, revenge, or holding a system for ransom, when they exploit a vulnerability today, we aren't just talking about a slap on the wrist anymore. We're talking about massive financial ruin, destroyed reputations, and in some cases, severe criminal penalties. So the ultimate question we need to answer is, how do organizations navigate this incredibly complex legal landscape without getting completely lost? How do they know exactly which shield to deploy and when? Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our thematic map for today. 1. International security standards. 2. U.S. healthcare and finance. 3. Copyright and federal systems. 4. Global data privacy regulations. And 5. International cyber laws. Starting off with Section 1, International Security Standards. Before we jump into the specific standards, we really need to define what they're actually trying to build. And that is an ISMS, or Information Security Management System. Now, this isn't just a piece of software you buy off the shelf. It's a living, breathing framework. It's all about establishing, maintaining, and continuously improving how you protect information to ensure its confidentiality, integrity, and availability. But a truly robust ISMS goes further. It also guarantees authenticity, like using biometrics to verify a user, and non-repudiation, ensuring someone simply can't deny an action they took on your network. Those 5 elements, they're the foundation that all these international standards manage. And this breakdown of the ISO/IEC 27000 family brilliantly illustrates a highly modular approach to managing those security risks. You can see how each standard serves a very specific purpose. They help organizations comply with regulatory obligations, sure, but they also build deep trust with partners by demonstrating a genuine, provable commitment to security. Let's actually compare a few of these specific layers to see how this shield works in practice. So ISO 27001, that's your bedrock. It dictates the core requirements of that ISMS we just talked about. But say you handle personally identifiable information, well then you'd add the 27701 layer for privacy management. Need to know the actual hands-on best practices for access control and cryptography? You're going to reference 2702. These best practices are specifically designed to counter known threat actor TTPs, their tactics, techniques, and procedures long before they can infiltrate your network. And if you're migrating to the cloud, 2718 gives you the exact code of practice for protecting personal data in public cloud environments. It really is a beautifully layered defense. Moving on to Section 2, U.S. Healthcare and Finance. Over in the healthcare sector, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, is king. But there's a really common point of confusion here that we absolutely need to clear up. HIPAA is divided into rules. The privacy rule is essentially about your rights. It gives federal protection to your health info and dictates exactly who is allowed to see it. But the security rule, that is the actual digital armor. It explicitly specifies the administrative, physical, and technical safeguards an organization must deploy to ensure that electronic health information remains confidential and secure from hackers. To put it simply, privacy is the right, security is the enforcement. Now, let's shift gears over to finance. Enacted back in 2002 after some truly massive corporate scandals, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, or SOX, was designed to protect investors and the public. It is a massive piece of legislation organized into 11 titles. We definitely don't need to memorize all of them, but just look at the focus here. Title I creates an independent oversight board. Title III literally mandates that senior executives take individual, personal responsibility for the accuracy of their financial reports. This act forces internal control so that financial truth is preserved and, most importantly, verifiable. The absolutely crucial point here is that SOX is not just a suggestion. Looking particularly at Titles 8 and 9, this shield has real, dangerous teeth. It explicitly identifies corporate fraud, the destruction of records, and records tampering as criminal offenses. Think about that. If you fail to secure financial data, or if you alter it, you aren't just facing a corporate fine. You are facing severe white-collar criminal penalties and enhanced sentencing guidelines. Let's move to Section 3, Copyright and Federal Systems. Let's see how this all builds when we bring in the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA. By implementing treaties from the World Intellectual Property Organization, the DMCA basically drags copyright law kicking and screaming into the digital era. The most important takeaway here for security professionals is that the DMCA creates strict, legal prohibitions against circumventing the technological measures that copyright owners employ to protect their works. So if a system is locked down to protect IP, breaking that lock, even if you're just a curious researcher wanting to see how it works, can put you in direct violation of federal law. And when we talk about the U.S. government itself, we have FISMA, the Federal Information Security Management Act. This requires every single federal agency and any contractor managing systems on their behalf to develop and document a comprehensive, agency-wide program for information security. It dictates exactly how to categorize information based on its mission impact, and it mandates strict minimum security requirements that absolutely must be met before a system is authorized to operate. We're talking about ensuring federal systems can withstand specific documented attack procedures, things like DNS tunneling or the malicious injection of web shells. All right, Section 4, Global Data Privacy Regulations. The General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, drafted by the European Union, literally changed the game back in 2018. It remains one of the most stringent privacy laws globally. It rests on these 7 core principles. Notice the tight focus here. You can only collect data for a very specific purpose. You must minimize what you collect, you absolutely cannot store it forever, and above all, you are held accountable for ensuring its integrity and confidentiality. And the real catch? It applies to any organization anywhere in the world if they target or collect data related to people inside the EU. And what happens if you decide to just ignore those 7 principles? Well, the penalties are definitely not just a cost of doing business. The GDPR levies incredibly harsh fines against those who violate its standards, with penalties literally reaching into the tens of millions of euros. It is intentionally designed to be financially devastating for non-compliance, forcing companies to take data privacy exactly as seriously as their bottom line. Following the framework of the GDPR, other nations have tailored their own specific shields. The UK, for instance, implemented the Data Protection Act 2018. This updated their older laws and was specifically amended to reflect the UK's status outside the EU post-Brexit. It requires lawful processing, confers specific rights to individuals to rectify inaccurate data, and it empowers the Information Commissioner to aggressively monitor and enforce these provisions, all across the UK. Finally, Section 5. International Cyber Laws. Now, cyber law isn't just one neat little document. It refers broadly to any laws dealing with the internet, covering access, privacy, freedom of expression, and security. But here's the fundamental problem. The internet has no physical borders. Think about it. Data flows seamlessly from a server in Germany, through cables sitting at the bottom of the Atlantic, right to a user in the United States. But cyber laws, they vary drastically by jurisdiction and country. What's really fascinating when you lay all these out is just how staggering the variety actually is. The United States has a patchwork of acts like the Privacy Act and the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Down in Australia, you have the Cybercrime Act 2001. Over in Germany, they specifically outline data espionage and computer sabotage in their legal sections. There is absolutely no single global rulebook. Implementing security that satisfies the laws of every single country your data touches is without a doubt one of the most incredible jurisdictional challenges facing IT professionals today. Which leaves us with a final and honestly a pretty profound challenge to consider. We've mapped out the voluntary standards, the strict US mandates, the robust European privacy rates, and the incredibly fractured nature of global cyber law. But as your personal and corporate data flows invisibly across dozens of borders every single second, passing through different jurisdictions with vastly different rules, whose legal shield is truly protecting you right now? It's a massive, complex puzzle, but understanding these frameworks is the first vital step to solving it. Thanks for joining me in this explainer, and as always, keep learning.